Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. This is lecture 2 of the O-Levels English language course. The course code is 1123 and the course is presented by Nafi' Academy. I'm the English trainer at Nafi' Academy and my name is Ibrahim Ahsan Faruqi, and in this lecture, in this session, we will go through the essentials of O-Levels letter writing, and we will specifically look at the guidelines and the format and the overall structure of a O-Level formal letter. Now, when it comes to letter writing, we are aware, or we should be aware, that letters are generally divided into two types: formal and informal. Formal letters are those that are addressed to a stranger perhaps, or a respected member of the family, an elder in the family perhaps, or to a company and perhaps an organization. Where on the other hand, an informal letter is addressed to a relative or a friend or a close companion. And both of these letters have different conditions. So you have certain stylistic conditions for the formal letter and certain stylistic conditions for the informal letter, and we will go through that momentarily. The first and most important thing to understand when it comes to letter writing is the overall letter structure, and this applies to both the formal letter and the informal letter. And any letter has three main parts: an introduction, a body, and a conclusion. So what is the introduction? In the introduction, you mention the purpose for writing the letter. Why are you writing the letter? That is what you answer. So you can start off the letter by saying, Dear Sir, in a formal setting, I'm writing to, and then you mention the reason for writing. I'm writing to apply for the job post, for example, or I'm writing to inquire about a job vacancy perhaps, or perhaps you're writing to a university and you're writing to inquire about the availability of a certain course in a certain semester. Then you introduce the topic, the main topic that you're going to write the letter on. You introduce it and you talk about it a bit, and you include some pleasantries in it. In an informal letter, for example, you can ask about the health of your friend or your family member, but you don't do this in a formal letter. In a formal letter, if you're writing to a company or you're writing to let's say a boss or a teacher, you don't really ask how are you doing, or you don't say something like that. Then you move on to the body after you're done with the introduction, and the body includes the main points of the topic, and you can have 4 to 5 points that you want to expound on during the letter, and you will write them as part of the body, and you will explain them diligently while giving examples if that's required. And then you move on to the conclusion, in which you summarize the gist of the letter and you end with a kind note, like for example, looking forward to hearing from you. That's said in a more formal setting. In an informal setting, you can say something like, I can't wait to hear back from you, and things along the lines of that. So this is the general letter structure that is followed in both the formal and the informal letter. Now let's have a look at the specific guidelines that relate to formal letter writing. So number one, the first thing is you do not need to include the address. It's not compulsory. Number two, a formal letter begins with something like Dear Sir. So you don't address the person by their first name. So you would say something like dear sir, dear madam, or you might say to whom it may concern at so and so organization. And you end with something like yours faithfully, and things along the lines of that. Thirdly, a formal letter needs to be written in a formal tone, meaning the voice that you're speaking in. Imagine you're speaking to this very person that you're writing the letter to. How are you going to speak to them? Naturally, you're going to structure your sentences in a different way. You're going to say different words. You're going to say different types of things. So make sure that the tone of your letter is formal. Fourthly, do not use contractions, which are short forms. So for example, instead of writing I have, you write I've. Or instead of writing cannot, you write can't. No, you have to write the complete form. And also you cannot use colloquialism or slang. By colloquialism and slang we mean terms that are not part of standard English. So you say these words while you're speaking, but you can't say them when you're writing something or when you're speaking in a formal environment. So for example, you can't say something like what's up. That's slang and colloquialism. You can't, and it's not considered a part of the formal letter language. Finally, you write a formal letter when speaking to someone you don't know well, or when you're addressing an organization, a company perhaps, and like I said, perhaps a respected elder in the family, a teacher, or your employer, for example. So these are the basic guidelines in relation to the formal letter writing. And in the upcoming session, lecture 3, we will have a look at the informal letter, inshallah ta'ala. Jazakumullah khairan for listening. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.